4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining.
And the guy's not a good general manager. And then you take a look at the coach of Mike McDaniel, who, out of all the coaches in the league this year, and coaches that are still employed, not coaches that have already been fired, I don't think a stock has soured more than what we have seen happen this year with Mike McDaniel. And I've always been skeptical of Mike McDaniel. I've always said when it comes to Mike McDaniel, I always feel as if I'm on the outside of the inside joke with him. And he's just someone that he's been a fine coach, right? They made the playoffs twice in his tenure, but he's not someone that I think is going to last long in this league as an NFL head coach. And I would not want him being my NFL head coach. And I thought he got exposed at times this year. But there's one thing to be disappointing, right? I think the justification for the Dolphins is rather easy. You could sit there and you could chalk it up, and it could be a little lame to do. And you could just say, hey, Zach, the Dolphins just missed out of the playoffs. Tua got the concussion. Tua's been hurt multiple times this season. And they were only one win away. And then something going their way, the Broncos, let's say, losing to the Chiefs from getting into the postseason. But that's the easy, get-out-of-jail-free kind of excuse card that the Dolphins can play. But I see bigger problems with this team, and I have a lack of confidence in the duo, and I don't really have any confidence in the partnership of Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel. So let's start off with Tyreek Hill. We played you this audio yesterday, but I want to play it again for consistency. This is Tyreek Hill, who is a captain, which, let's be real, if you tell me Tyreek Hill is a captain, I don't think it's because he's a good leader. I don't think it's because he's this great teammate. I don't think it's because Tyreek Hill always conducts himself in the right world. That's all a bunch of nonsense. Tyreek Hill is a captain because when he's at his best, he's one of the more entertaining players in the league, and he's been doing this for a long time. But this was a captain, not just a star wide receiver, right? If this was just a star wide receiver, stereotypical wide receiver, you would anticipate this type of behavior. But this is Captain Tyreek Hill after the Dolphins lose to the Jets. They missed out on the postseason. This was Tyreek Hill, who didn't want to speak originally, right? Like, I read the reporting. A captain, not just some random player, a captain did not want to speak to the media originally afterwards. And then he said, you know what? He was talked into it. That's what captains do. And this is how the captain elected to conduct himself after the game.
This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, if that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like, I'm out, bro. You know, so it was great playing here, but, you know, at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for, you know, for my career and, you know, what's best. Because I'm too much of a competitor to be, you know, just
Does that mean
just out there.
Mean you're thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, yes.
He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't. Because that's the same Tyreek Hill that was in a place that knows what it's like to win in Kansas City. And he left Kansas City because he wanted the most amount of money possible and he wanted warm weather, right? He wanted the destination of Miami and the lucrative cash that comes with playing for the Miami Dolphins, where he wasn't getting great weather in Kansas City, and he would have got a good deal from the Chiefs, but it wouldn't have been the same amount of money that he got from the Miami Dolphins. And if that's what you want to do, I'm not going to sit here and shred you to pieces on that. You know, I personally wouldn't leave Kansas City. Now, he got a Super Bowl ring, but when you're playing with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and your coach is Andy Reid, and that organization stuck by you through a lot of stuff that they should not have stuck by you and stood by your side, I would have stayed there. If you're a competitor and, right, you're all about winning, why would you leave the penthouse? Why would you leave the standard in the NFL? And albeit at the time, they only had one championship, but why would you leave? And then you go to Miami, you've made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years, and the 1 year you don't make it, now all of a sudden for Tyreek Hill, it's like, yep, I got to leave. This isn't good for me and my family. Can I just ask a simple question? How is being on the Miami Dolphins right now not good for Tyreek Hill and his family? Right? They've paid him. They've even restructured the deal. And this year, you didn't live up to your standard. And don't tell me it was because Tua Tagovailoa was missing for a few games because of the injuries. Because we've seen Tua miss games before, and you still had 2 1,700 seasons. One was nearly an 1,800-yard season in the 2 years prior. So don't give me this that, hey, being in Miami is not good for me and my family. And also, Tyreek Hill, you left Kansas City, which was the standard, to go chase the weather and chase the cash, and now you want to leave, and you're older, right? You're still a heck of a player. You're only 30. You know, he turns 31 in March, but you didn't have a good season this year. And if he wants to talk about the wrist injury and what, okay, right? It's the longest lingering wrist injury that I've ever heard of, though. Because this goes back to the incident with the cops right back in week 1, right as the season started. So with Tyreek Hill right now, he seems directionless. He seems as if he's someone that doesn't know what he wants. And that kind of fits the Dolphins organization because they're stuck right now. They're not close to being an elite team, but they're not a bad team. They're a team that could teeter from 8 wins, right, being the floor, and then maybe 10 or 11 being a ceiling. But when push comes to shove, you get into the postseason. Does anyone trust that team, even with Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and this offensive genius of Mike McDaniel to go on the road and win a big game? Does anyone? Because, hey, the Dolphins last year had a vulnerable Chiefs team. They went to the road, and it was cold, and they were shaking in their boots, and they didn't know what to do. And I know that it was freezing in Kansas City for that game, and some people had, like, really terrible frostbite when you talk to the fans. But that's not a good quote from Tyreek Hill. If Tyreek Hill is a captain, to immediately say after the game and after the season, yeah, I'm out, I'm done, this isn't good for me and my family. Now, it's not just that, because you could chalk it up to maybe frustration in the moment, right, after the game. But this was Mike McDaniel after the game on Sunday as well. And you tell me if this is good captain behavior from one Tyreek Hill.
I was informed that he was unavailable right before a drive. I was not informed that it was a new injury. And, at that point in time, my focus was on the players. And I didn't take the time to go try to figure out more into that. Just there was guys on the field that were competing, and we were trying to win a game, so my focus was there.
So he quit. That's how I listen and hear that, and that's how I interpret that. There was no new injury. He was just told he's unavailable. So how disingenuous would it be of me for shredding Devondre Campbell a few weeks ago for quitting and not going in when told to? When Tyreek Hill, hey, we're out of the playoffs. Hey, we're not going to make it. We know what's going on with the Broncos up against the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm just going to say pretty much I'm done. If the Dolphins have any cojones, and I don't know if they do, I would tell Tyreek Hill, we're not trading your ass. And you're going to start doing things our way. Yes, you're a heck of a player. You're an unbelievable talent. But Mike McDaniel, he needs to start to be more of a disciplinarian. Because the problem with Mike McDaniel, it's all nice. Oh, he's a player's coach. Oh, he says a bunch of funny things at the podium. Oh, he's all buddy-buddy with the media. All those things are great. But you could be a player's coach and not be a doormat. And Mike McDaniel is the definition of a doormat. He's a player's coach, but he's a doormat right now. And Tyreek Hill has walked over him all season long. And I'm not saying that Mike McDaniel is Mr. Perfect. I've even sensed and said the last few years that I think he's a tad overrated. And I sometimes don't get the inside joke, and I feel like I'm on the outside looking in when everyone loves Mike McDaniel. But this has been a horrible year for Tyreek Hill. It's been a bad year and a disappointing year for the Miami Dolphins. And for Mike McDaniel, I don't think a stock has plummeted more on a head coach this year more than Mike McDaniel. He went from the belle of the ball the last 2 years. No one could say a negative word about him, right? 2 playoff appearances. Easy guy to root for. And this year, when he didn't have Tua Tagovailoa, he looked absolutely lost. And look at the way that Tyreek Hill's speaking after the game. Look at what Jalen Ramsey is posting on social media as well. Does Mike McDaniel have control of his locker room? No. And that's the Dolphins' biggest problem. The Dolphins don't have good leadership right now. Chris Grier should no longer be their general manager. And if you're getting rid of Chris Grier, even though it may be unfair to get rid of Mike McDaniel, because he probably does deserve another opportunity to fix what he failed to do this year and right his wrongs, because he did make the playoffs the 2 prior years. And he's clearly a lot newer to the organization than Chris Grier, who's been around forever. But I don't believe that Mike McDaniel is going to successfully turn this around. And I know the Dolphins aren't doing this, but if I was running their organization, I would have got rid of Grier and I would have got rid of Mike McDaniel. and I would bring in a coach who can be like Dan Campbell, or who could be like a Marcus Freeman in college, who is a player's coach, but isn't a doormat. And that's Mike McDaniel's biggest problem right now. So we hear all this, right? And you hear the drama from Tyreek Hill and how ugly it got after the game. This is from a few hours ago. I'll be nice today. Should I be? Will I be? All right. I won't call him Dumb and Dumber. That's what I was thinking of Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Well, it would be dumb would be Mike McDaniel and dumber would be Chris Greer. But this is Mike McDaniel on Tyreek Hill wanting out of Miami and everything that has transpired since we ended up seeing the scene on Sunday from Tyreek Hill and then all on social media yesterday.
The relationship, we met for, I want to say an hour yesterday. I think there's the competitive spirit of his, can represent, post game, especially in a season or a game that nobody likes. It could allude to a relationship being one way. I think I was very direct with him. He was very honest, and it was great terms that we were discussing. Discussed multiple things, including without wavering, that it's not acceptable to leave a game and won't be tolerated in the future. And he embraced accountability, and it was. I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily to fix, as much as we had to clear the air in a rough and tumultuous situation.
There's nothing to fix. Now, it's nice that Tyreek Hill elected to change his profile picture from him photoshopped in Antonio Brown's body running off the field to back to a Dolphins uniform. But there's nothing to fix? That's what the head football coach of the Miami Dolphins has to say in that verbal diarrhea that happened for the last minute? That audio clip was 1 minute and 9 seconds. We had a meeting, all's good, pretty much. There's nothing to fix here. His behavior, though, was unacceptable. But there's nothing to fix here. And don't just tell me, it's because of the heat of the emotion. It's just the emotions. You could be emotional. You could be annoyed that you lost and not quit on your team. Also, not ask for a trade after the game and then afterwards just basically say, yeah, we're good. And I'm supposed to believe that this won't be a problem that doesn't get worse. They may be able to mend the fences here for a few weeks next year. But the moment something goes wrong, which it will continue to go wrong with the Dolphins organization because they're a bad organization, even though their results on the field the last 3 years have been brutal, why would I think that Tyreek Hill is going to be mature and act differently? Tyreek Hill does not come off to me as someone that's mature. And Tyreek Hill doesn't come off to me as someone that should be a captain. And if the Dolphins have him back next year, which I think you should force him to come back, and the Dolphins make him a captain again, and the Dolphins just pretend like every little thing's going to be all right, well, then it's going to continue to be what we saw this year. He's a talented player. There's no doubt about it. But he's also a royal pain in the ass. And has Kansas City missed him at all? They've won 2 championships since he's left. They haven't missed him for 1 second. Not for 1 second. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, I got 3 coaching questions from the coaching cycle with the 5 teams that are officially open to hiring head coaches. We'll get to that when we return in a few moments.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We opened up the program talking about how the stock is all the way down for Mike McDaniel. Before I get to 3 coaching questions for the jobs that are open right now, and we'll look at the Patriots, the Bears, and the Jaguars today. Stu, let me just ask you this. If you had to give me a few other coaches who you think that have their stock take a hit this year, and their stock not necessarily plummeting, but moving in the wrong direction, who are some of those coaches? I'll respond to those.
Yeah, so I think Zach Taylor's one. You have all the talent you have. Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Jamar Chase, and you don't make the playoffs. I know they lost a lot of games by one possession, but still, you don't make the playoffs. I think that's a pretty bad sign for him.
Let me just give me the coach now, and then I'll respond.
Sure.
So for Zach Taylor, I look at on the defensive side of the ball, that was their biggest issue. I'm not saying his stock is in a great spot right now. I don't think he's in danger of getting fired because he's a good relationship with Joe Burrow. And also the Bengals are notoriously a cheap organization. So that may cover up sometimes the Bengals' problems in terms of them getting a lot of criticism just because this is what we expect. And I still believe that we're still living, and it's now been more than a few years, we're still living off that Bengals team that got to the Super Bowl and lost to the Rams, even though we've had, I think, 3 Super Bowl champions since then. When you look back, or you will have 3 Super Bowl champions since then once the Super Bowl comes and goes this year, because you had the Chiefs back-to-back champions, and then we'll see what happens this season. But firing Anarumo, and that is something that, okay, if you don't make the next right hire this time next year, and we're sitting here still talking about, and who knows if T. Higgins will be back, but Jamar Chase, who just won a Triple Crown, Burrow just led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns, and Trey Hendrickson just led the league in sacks. If we're talking about that team not bare minimum making a return to the postseason next year and being a major player, then yes, I do believe more and more people will start to turn their attention to Zach Taylor and be saying, okay, that Super Bowl season's out the window. Since then, you guys haven't taken that step to get back there and actually win the Super Bowl. So Taylor's it's a fine name. I think his name has taken a little bit of a hit, which goes into the stock down category. But I don't think people are rushing yet to say, hey, the Bengals need to fire Zach Taylor.
Okay, next up I have Antonio Pierce. I think he had a great end of the season last year. He was the near unanimous choice to keep the job. And, boy, there are just a lot of holes this year. And it's not all his fault. The team's bad, doesn't have a quarterback. But I feel a lot differently about Pierce than I did this time last year.
You went from last year, and this is what happens when you miss the boat on one coach and then you try to replicate it down the road. Right? After Bisaccia had them in the postseason, interim head coach, they didn't hire him. They end up getting Josh McDaniels. Everyone's sitting there and they're saying, and I said it too, don't let it happen again. You got Antonio Pierce. I think the way we both said it, Stu, unless you could get Jim Harbaugh, Antonio Pierce has to be your head football coach. And they weren't obviously able to get Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh was never going to the Raiders. And, maybe would have a few years ago, but not this past offseason because the Chargers job was so attractive. And they end up making Antonio Pierce the guy. And not that I think Antonio Pierce was as horrible as what people make him out to be considering the circumstance. And at least that team played tough for him in the last month of the season. But yes, people went from Antonio Pierce was all that. Antonio Pierce is basically, I've even said it, hopefully he could be what Dan Campbell was to the Lions, what Antonio Pierce could be for the Raiders. And now most people just anticipate that Antonio Pierce for this upcoming season, it's going to be his final year as the head coach of the Silver and Black. And the only reason he's brought back is because Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel aren't going to entertain coming to your organization.
And my last one is Brian Daboll. I just think what he did at that first year, getting the Giants to the playoffs with Daniel Jones, looked really promising. And just ever since then, it's just been a trickle down. And again, it's not all his fault, but I don't think he's done himself any favors the last couple of years. And
it just shows you either have the quarterback or you don't. Obviously, Zach Taylor could be criticized. He has the quarterback. Mike McDaniel can be criticized. Tua's not great, but he's still a good quarterback in this league. You look at those last two, Antonio Pierce has nowhere close to being a coach that has a quarterback. And Brian Daboll, he made Daniel Jones look good in year one, but since then, they have been 2 brutal seasons for the New York Giants. And Daboll's coming back, but I don't believe that John Mara's bringing Daboll back with this great conviction. I think he's bringing him back because he's afraid to make a move. And he's sitting there and he's saying, okay, I'll give Joe Shane and I'll give Brian Daboll another year because if we do fire them, then we're in, and I know the Cleveland Browns organization has changed a little bit, but then we're in that Cleveland Browns territory for that decade where they had a new head football coach every 2 years, it felt like. But the problem is the Giants are so down and out right now. And yes, they have Malik Neighbors. Tracy had a good season. You got two players or so on the defensive side of the ball. But until they get that quarterback in their hope, again, I don't really think there's any reason to believe that the Giants get things back moving in the right direction. They really need a quarterback. All righty. Let me get to 3 coaching questions just a second. But first, 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Jerry in South Carolina wants to chime in on the coaching search around the NFL. Jerry, what's happening?
Hey, Zach, how you doing today?
Doing great. What do you got for me?
Good. Long-time listener on your show. You're doing an excellent job.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the coaching carousel first in New England. The Patriots had a chance of getting Vrabel last year, but yet I guess Mayo was next in line after Belichick. But I think Robert Kraft knew he made that mistake, so hopefully they'll get it right this time. And also, coaching carousel, if McCarthy's not back with Dallas, I think he interviewed for the Bears job already since the season ended.
Well, they asked, just to be clear, the Bears asked permission with the Cowboys. Yeah. The contract expires next week. To my knowledge, we have not got an update yet on if the Bears are going to get permission for McCarthy. But if the Cowboys don't make sure that he's their coach this time next week, then he will be free to go talk to the Chicago Bears if he would like to.
That's right. So. Okay, that'll probably be a perfect fit for their organization as well. But, yeah, and also with the Jaguars, I think Ben Johnson will probably be the perfect fit for that organization. I guess Trevor Lawrence needs a quarterback whisperer, let's say, to help him develop and get better. I think Ben Johnson will be the perfect guy for that.
Well, Jerry, you bring up a lot of good points, and you appreciate it, and it's almost like you're my program director because it segues perfectly into what we're going to do right here, so appreciate you making the phone call. Here are the 3 coaching questions that I have right now, and they have to deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars job, the New England Patriots job, and the Chicago Bears job. I do think Mike Vrabel is an absolute lock to be the next head football coach of the New England Patriots. The Patriots today rushed in 2 interviews to check off the requirements for the Rooney Rule. They interviewed Byron Leftwich, and they also interviewed Pat Hamilton. Why are they rushing that in today? Because they know they have one of the bells of the ball out there in Mike Vrabel, who wants to be the next head football coach of the New England Patriots. Robert Kraft loved Gerard Mayo. Robert Kraft supposedly, he claims, handpicked Gerard Mayo 5 years ago to be the head football coach to replace Bill Belichick. And it was, even though Gerard Mayo didn't have much this year, it was a really ugly situation. And unfortunately for Gerard Mayo, he wasn't ready. And that's my biggest pet peeve as a football coach. You could be a player's coach, and the Patriots needed to shift away from the greatness of Bill Belichick, but you can't be a doormat. And I'll say that until I'm blue in the face. If you are a player's coach, that's fine, but you can't be a doormat. So the first question is Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots a lock? I absolutely think so. Now, let's go to Trent Baalke. He's back with the Jacksonville Jaguars for now. This was Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was with Trent Baalke during this press conference via Zoom. And just listen up to this question and the answer. Shad Khan with his GM, Trent Baalke, sitting right next to him the day of where they did get rid of Doug Peterson and dismissed him as the head football coach of the Jaguars.
If they were to say, I would like to reevaluate the front office and the general manager, what would your response be?
My response would be, how would you improve it? And then if it is credible, you want to do it. Okay. So how does a structure work? I just want to make sure that this isn't about ego or power or, something more sinister, quite frankly. And there have been some of those elements that I've found, in my experience in the NFL. If it's a legit effort to get better, then everything, should be on the table.
So I laid out my reasons last week, and so did James Palmer, on why Ben Johnson would be interested in the Jaguars job. And I walked into the show yesterday thinking that Ben Johnson was going to get the Jaguars job. Easier division for Ben Johnson to go to the AFC South than for him to go to the NFC North. Also, you have a quarterback in there who needs a quarterback whisperer and an offensive-minded head coach in Trevor Lawrence who needs his career salvage, right? Chicago is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams could be great. Just like how we thought Trevor Lawrence could be great. Maybe they both don't end up being great. And also, there's a lot less pressure in Jacksonville than if you go to Chicago. So I looked at all those things. And also, the Jaguars roster isn't bad. You have the LSU wide receiver, Thomas Jr., who had a really good season. You got someone that maybe he could think can work in Trevor Lawrence. And in addition to that, you have two good pass rushers in Josh Hines Allen, who has shown he could be an elite pass rusher or a top 10 pass rusher in this league. And then you got Trayvon Walker, who has not been as great as what a number one pick suggested he should be, but he's been a fine pass rusher in this league as well. So you have enough there for Ben Johnson, who is also you say Zig, he's Zags type of guy. When you look back, everyone thought he was going to go to the Commanders last year. He ended up coming back to the Detroit Lions. But now with Balky being brought back, and I know Shad Khan just basically said, if the new head coach comes in and makes a good case for why we shouldn't have Trent Baalke here, it doesn't mean that Trent Baalke is going to continue to be the GM. But this was James Palmer with us yesterday, the great NFL reporter, on how, and he was someone that thought, just like me, that Ben Johnson was going to the Jaguars, how coaches are going to be turned off and the perception around Ben Johnson going to the Jaguars could potentially change with Trent Baalke being brought back for now.
Speaking to a number of people this weekend and then this afternoon, the perception of the Jaguars' job has changed dramatically with Trent Baalke being retained. That was assumed this weekend with a number of people I asked as the best job available if both general manager and head coach were available. Because then Ben Johnson can also come in and bring the GM that he desires, or whoever comes in brings in the GM that they desire, and they work, copacetic, and it's wonderful. I think that job now, the perception of it in Jacksonville has changed with Trent Baalke being retained.
So when you look at that, I think the perception can change. Oh, boy. Hold on. We got breaking news. Forget everything that we're saying. Ian Rappaport. The Raiders have fired coach Antonio Pierce following a trying season despite a flurry at the end, per Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, and Mike Garafolo. One and done for Pierce, and Las Vegas is open once again. Here's what I don't get. What took so damn long? Were you really that back and forth vacillating? The season ended on Sunday. It was a bad season for the Raiders. You let him speak to the media yesterday, and now you fire him on Tuesday? This is the Raiders. They don't know the difference from their elbow to their ass, for crying out loud. And I don't have a problem with them getting rid of Antonio Pierce. That was the sentiment for, the last 2 months that this guy was going to get fired. But you have Sunday happen, the final game. You let him speak on Monday, and now you fire him on Tuesday. And who are you going to get? Mike Vrabel, he's going to New England. I don't think Ben Johnson, unless if he's enamored with Tom Brady being a minority owner there, and they don't have a plan at quarterback right now, I don't think Ben Johnson's going there. So who's going to be the next head coach of the Raiders? But make that six jobs that are now open in the NFL. And it's so typical Raiders to be the last one to the party. And I don't know if you want to be invited to this party, but what were you dragging your feet about? And yes, it's not going to take away who they want to hire, right, by firing them on Tuesday. But it's just so LOL, laugh out loud with the Raiders that this decision happens on Tuesday where, hey, Robert Kraft's like, it's Sunday. I already knew what I was doing. Game ended. All right, we'll wait 90 minutes. We'll be courteous. Gerard Mayo, you're out. Doug Peterson, you're out Monday morning. But the Raiders have to drag their feet. And what were the conversations? Seriously. What was the debate in that room? So there you go. There you have it. The breaking news. The Raiders doing Raiders things. And I don't have a problem with the firing. It's just what took so freaking long, for crying out loud. So death taxes and the Raiders having a head coaching vacancy. Ay, ay, ay. And I'm fascinated. Out of all the jobs, besides Chicago, because there's a lot on the line in Chicago, I'm really fascinated by the Raiders because that's a big brand franchise that can't get out of their own way to save their life. Hey, is Chucky coming back? I know John Gruden's begging for a job. Hey, John, we're past the emails and everything. Who says you can't go home? Who says you can't make a return for the third time in your career being the head coach of the Silver and Black? So the Raiders finally joined the party. So the 3 coaching questions I had for this segment. Does Trent Baalke change the Jaguars' job? If I was a prospective candidate, I would say no, because the owner basically just said you get rid of him if you give a good reason. I do believe Vrabel's a lock to be the next coach of the Patriots. And then the Bears, will they hire McCarthy? If the Bears can't get Ben Johnson, or if the Bears can't get Mike Vrabel, then yeah, I think you consider a veteran coach like a Mike McCarthy if he doesn't want to come on back to the Cowboys. If I'm McCarthy, I think I'd rather be the coach of the Bears with Caleb Williams than the Cowboys right now, who the ship has sailed on the Cowboys from being that team to beat, in my opinion, in the NFC East. Oh, boy. We'll get Stu's reaction when we come on back to his football team finally firing their head football coach. Update time. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. The Raiders let Antonio Pierce twist in the wind and today fired their head coach after going 4-13 after he met with owner Mark Davis. The total now of coaching vacancies in the NFL is at 6. The Titans have a new stadium coming and are not showing any patience firing GM Ran Carthon after 2 years. Head coach Brian Callahan stays. Tennessee is the number 1 pick overall after going 3-14 following 6 wins the year before. This comes 2 years after firing John Robinson, and the team now on the hunt for its second general manager. The Jets met with their third coaching candidate, talking with former coach Rex Ryan, who's interested in a reunion. They also asked the Saints permission to talk with interim Darren Rizzi. Former Jets head coach Robert Saleh interviewing with the Jaguars. Tyreek Hill maybe looking for a change of scenery. He met with GM Chris Greer, but the Dolphins executive said Hill did not ask for a trade. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD, veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. In Saturday's 19-17 win over the Steelers, Hendrickson had 3.5 sacks, giving him a league-leading 17.5 sacks for the year. Bengals, though, do not make the playoffs. So the big news that we just talked about a few moments ago, and you got the initial reaction because it popped up right during when we were on the air, is the Raiders, after dragging their feet for 2 days, have elected to make a decision, and they are firing Antonio Pierce. Tom Telesco, according to Adam Schefter, is going to be retained as the general manager. So now that has the Raiders, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Bears, the Saints, and the Patriots are your head coach openings around the NFL. Diana Rossini says that Tom Brady, who's the minority owner of the Raiders, is going to be heavily involved in the head coaching search. So we have a Raiders fan on this show. His name is Stuart Kovacs. Your initial reaction on Antonio Pierce being shown the door with the silver and black?
Pretty similar to yours. I think if they think it's the right move, that he's not a good enough coach, then you get rid of him. Why it took 48 hours? I don't know why it took 48 hours.
Because of the Raiders.
Because of the Raiders. So
is it because Brady had a game and they had to wait for him to get back there?
Maybe. That's always dumbfounded. I don't know why it would take that long. But at least they got to the decision now and not later on or sometime in the 2 games in the next season. So that, at least for me, is a good thing.
I just jotted down 3 names. Let's do it this way, Stu. Hot take, I jotted down 3 names of guys that are somewhat, I'm not saying fully realistic, but somewhat realistic for the Raiders. I'm not going to throw Ben Johnson out there. Could Ben Johnson maybe get enamored with Tom Brady? I guess anything's possible. But if Ben Johnson wasn't willing to go to the Commanders that had Jaden Daniels coming, why would you then go to the Raiders where who knows what's going to happen? Like, is there a chance Max Crosby now says, hey, I'm done. I was an Antonio Pierce guy and I want out? There were some trade rumors at this past deadline where it's not as if Max Crosby, even though he always talks about how much he loves being a Raider, totally dismissed them all the way. Like, he played into it a little bit. So you could see a major roster change from some of your better players with the Raiders, even though the Raiders don't have a ton of great players. So I wrote down 3 names. You give me a few names that you think, okay, are realistic for the Raiders that you would like to see them hire.
I think Vrabel is realistic because of the relationship with Brady.
Yeah. And also, too, look at the news cycle today. What did the Patriots rush to do? Satisfy the Rooney Rule requirement.
Yep.
Where they interviewed Pep Hamilton today and also Byron Leftwich. Is that because they caught wind of that the Raiders are actually going to fire Antonio Pierce, and Kraft knows how close Brady and Mike Vrabel are. So that's one, Mike Vrabel, that is on my list. And even though I think Vrabel will end up being the Patriot coach, it was just last week where I didn't think the Patriots were going to fire Gerard Mayo, and I had Mike Vrabel going to the Raiders. So I do think that's a possibility.
I think Liam Cohen is also a possibility, strong possibility. That is someone that the Raider Twitter seems to really like, and someone that's kind of been reported as a possible candidate.
The only thing I'll wonder about Liam Cohen, will he wait? Because he talked about how that's a dream of his to be a head coach, but it's the most fun he's ever having, and he's young. And, right, does he maybe go the Ben Johnson school of thought where, all right, I don't need to just leave for the sake of leaving. I'm in a pretty good spot. But I don't think Liam Cohen's a bad name as well.
And I think Brian Flores is someone that they liked in the last go-around that I think could be a potential option. I don't think there's much of a connection there.
Well, Brady there is.
Well, Brady is, yeah. But in terms of in social media, I don't know if that's been reported a lot. But you're right. The Brady connection, I guess, would be there with Flores. So,
yeah.
Maybe.
You know what? I could see Brian Flores getting that job. And it's similar to the Pierce hire, where it's a defensive-minded head coach. You know, I think Flores is more of a hard ass than Antonio Pierce, but Antonio Pierce didn't come off as if he was a doormat. You know, he was player-friendly, but he did mean business. So you end up going Flores, Vrabel, and Liam Cohen. I have 2 names that you didn't mention. You tell me what you think here. I don't know. I don't think you'll like this one.
Okay.
But there is a Tom Brady connection because I think they shared a locker room together for a season. What about Cliff Kingsbury?
Okay.
I'm not saying you love it.
I don't love it, but I could see it. I can get on board with it.
And also, it's not as if this is a real attractive job.
It's not.
So I could see maybe Cliff Kingsbury. And then here's the other one. Coach Prime. Now, I know he just got a major recruit. I don't think he's leaving right now. But could you potentially have, with the silver and black, you go hire Deion Sanders, and Brady and Coach Prime are somewhat close, and then you have the 6th overall pick, and does Coach Sanders then say, my son is going to force his way to join his pops once again, and he's going to be the quarterback of the Raiders, whether the Raiders have to move up in the draft, probably assuming so, to go get Shedeur Sanders. But it's not as if that's impossible to move up in the draft because they're the 6th overall pick right now. So those are the 4 names to me that I immediately thought of was somewhat of having connections with Tom Brady. Cliff Kingsbury, they were teammates together in 2003. Coach Prime, Mike Vrabel, who I ultimately think will end up going to New England, and then Brian Flores. And in the immediate moment, and Stu, you brought this up, Flores, that would be my first guess on who will actually get the job. Brian Flores as your next head football coach of the Raiders to replace Antonio Pierce after, for some reason, and it's probably the reason of the Raiders are just the Raiders, and they love to drag their feet, and once again, they don't know the difference between their elbow and their ass. I don't know why they couldn't make this decision late Sunday night. I don't know why they couldn't make this decision yesterday. How do you let the coach go to the podium? Go to the podium. I know the Bears did it, and then the next day, okay, we'll get rid of him. What took so long? I'm okay with the decision, but what took so long and what changed from Sunday to Monday, and then from Sunday, Monday to Tuesday? It makes no sense. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Martellus Bennett will join us on the other side. He knows Tom Brady. Maybe he'll be the next head football coach of the Raiders. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We should be joined momentarily by Martellus Bennett, as he has a new book coming on out called Dear Black Boy, which you can get available for purchase wherever books are sold on January 14th, right here in the year of 2025, so 7 days from now. The Raiders, as we've been talking about it for the last 2 segments, they make the move of the day, if you want to call it that way. They wait. Don't do it Sunday, don't do it Monday, but today, just about 30 minutes or so ago, right as we're about to get to the 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time update, you had the breaking news report that the Raiders are moving on after 1 season from Antonio Pierce. He's out as the head football coach of the Raiders. I gave a few Tom Brady connections in the last segment because Brady, according to Dan Rossini, is going to have a big hand involved in this search. Brady, obviously the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. And we threw out those names with Brady connections, Coach Prime, Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores, and Cliff Kingsbury. I just saw that Vinny Iyer, who does a good job for the Sporting News covering the NFL, he's been doing this for a long time, and he put out an article, 6 best Raiders coaching candidates to replace Antonio Pierce from Brian Flores to Mike Vrabel. So you know those are going to be 2 out of the 6. He has Brian Flores. He has Liam Cohen, who Stuther out there, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, right, who worked for McVay, also was at Kentucky on a few stops as well. Kellen Moore was also thrown into the mix, the Eagles offensive coordinator mentioned by Vinny Iyer. Ben Johnson, I don't think Ben Johnson's going to the Raiders. Cliff Kingsbury, right, who did play with Brady in 2003. Mike Vrabel, obviously, who has a long-standing relationship with Tom Brady. So those were the 6 names that Vinny Iyer did throw out there for the Sporting News to potentially replace Antonio Pierce, as he's now out with the Raiders, as he threw out there Brian Flores, Liam Cohen, Kellen Moore, Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, and Mike Vrabel as well. So you have Antonio Pierce out, and that's now 6 jobs that are open. And I'll be curious to see how these jobs are going to be ranked in terms of how attractive these jobs are on the market right now. When you take a glance at the Raiders, Jets, Jaguars, Bears, Saints, and Patriots. Now joining us is a man that played in the NFL for a very long time, won a Super Bowl championship with the Patriots, has a book coming on out on January 14th called Dear Black Boy, which will be available for purchase wherever books are sold on January 14th, and that is Martellus Bennett. Martellus, appreciate the time. Congratulations. How you been?
Oh, man, it's been amazing. Life has been very compelling, and it's been beautiful to be alive, so I'm doing great. How about you?
Well, I've been fantastic, and I know you've been out of the league now for a while. Your last year was in 2017. Do you still miss ever playing in the NFL? Just wondering.
Nope.
Not at all.
Nah, man, I was just, I retired by choice. I left the game. I retired from the game. The game didn't retire me, so it's a bit different. So after a spiritual pilgrimage in Japan, I decided that the life I wanted to live was a life full of creativity and not one that involved anything that had to do with the sport at all.
What did you do, just wondering, in Japan? Tell me a little bit about that trip.
Oh, shit, I was damn near Japanese for 10 days, you know what I'm saying?
How'd that come about, just wondering?
I mean, I was in the mountains. I was at Shinto shrines. I met 1,000 gods. I studied Shintoism. I learned anime. I went to eat it everywhere. I went to the robot cafe. I did some samurai things. I still practice the samurai philosophy in my life. When I came back, I got a chance to sumo wrestle. I came back, and when I left Japan, I had met this lady named Miho. It's important that I say Miho, not Maho. And I meet Miho, and every day me and Miho was walking. And one day I asked Miho, I was like, how do you do this? And she was like, oh, I do this every day, Marty-san. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. She's like, you do this every single day? She said, yes, I love everything about it. I love meeting new people. I love learning about people, where people come from, their background, meeting families. I love showing them my country. I love all of it. And then while I was talking to her, I was like, I want what Miho has. I want something in which I love every single thing about. So at that moment, I started thinking about my life, and something I wanted to do forever that I loved every single thing about was make something. I never complain about learning about making things, or craftsmanship, drawing. Like, I look forward to those things, and I discover more about myself through creativity than anything else I did in my life. So I decided to live a life of making, and I feel I have been fulfilled and happy. I've been a happier person without the game.
What was sumo wrestling like? Just curious.
Man, can I say fat motherfuckers on here?
No, you can't. But you said it anyway. We can dump it. But
First of all, like, man, you push a defensive end around. Like, Julius Peppers is a big dude to be blocking. I played with Tyron Smith, and I played with Cal Long, and I played with Flozell Adams and Leonard Davis. But they have nothing on sumo wrestlers when it comes to size. To try to move a sumo man, and they're a lot quicker and a lot more flexible than you give them credit for. So, I mean, I lost every match. I didn't even get close to winning, right? I couldn't move the guy. They just so much technique. And the way of the salt is an interesting life to live as well. But sumo wrestling was a lot of fun. I would go and watch sumo fights if they had them happening in the U.S. But unfortunately, you don't look around and see sumo wrestling anywhere around the U.S.,
Was it humbling, just wondering, right? Because here you are, you're an NFL player, you've gone up against some of the best defensive players, and like you said, you had no chance up against these guys. Was it a little bit humbling going up against the sumo wrestlers?
Man, everything I do in life is humbling. But yeah, this was, but it was very, like, I don't would say it was humbling, because it was like, I remember one day I was in a squat room and a coach was yelling, and I was squatting like 550 pounds, and this guy was yelling, coach was yelling at me while I'm doing these squats. You're doing 10 reps at 550, right? And then, the last two got really hard, and coach, oh, you can get it, you can get it. But in my head at that moment, I started thinking, like, why am I squatting 550 pounds 10 times right now? In fact, if someone 550 pounds jump on my back, I'm going down. And if someone 550 pounds catches me, we got a bigger issue. You know what I'm saying? So then, so by the time this guy was 750 pounds, he's like a ton of rice every single day. When I looked at him, I didn't think I was going to be able to move him at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have to do something to run around circles and try to tire him out, but so at the start point, I didn't think I was going to win the match at all. I don't have no technique, no skills. And even the smaller sumo wrestlers are too skilled to really beat. Because in football, we are taught to meet force with force, right? But they have a good way of not overextending themselves. And in football, you have to have leverage, hit low, and come up. You do that with them, they just use your balance against you and toss you down. So, like, in football, you could win a blocking. The guy who usually wins at the line of scrimmage is the guy who usually get both of his feet down and his hands inside first. Well, this fat dude, you get both your feet down and your hands down, you're not going to win. It doesn't really matter how quick your feet get down or how slow his feet is. Like, so it's like pushing a brick wall. But it was a lot of fun. I would do it again. I got to wear the entire everything. So I would do it again, definitely.
So I have the book right here, Dear Black Boy. I know it's coming out on January 14th. Tell me a little bit about it.
So, Dear Black Boy is a letter of encouragement to black boys and all over the world, around the globe, to run towards freedom. And the idea of freedom is the freedom of self-expression and the freedom to be whatever it is that you want to be. As, like, I know growing up as a young black boy, especially in America, it feels like the best outlet for you is always the sport. But that's just because we don't shine the lights on the spectrum of greatness that black men and black boys are doing around the country. There's so much more for you to be than just an athlete. And if you don't make it to the NFL or NBA, doesn't mean that you failed. There's so many other paths that you could chase with that same greatness, that same tenacity, that same spirit that helped you become a really good player, whatever you decided to do. And this is for all people. Like, that same tenacity that you take to the sport, that work ethic, that discipline, you can apply that to any other thing in life and find greatness in that path, your freedom of self, and whatever that may be. So that's what the book is ultimately about.
But with your life experiences now, just wondered, as Martellus Bennett is here with us, the name of the book is Dear Black Boy. If you didn't play in the NFL, what do you think you would have ended up doing with your life?
So NFL was my plan C. At first I thought I'm from Houston and NASA's here, so I always thought I was going to work at NASA.
Wow.
Growing up. Like I was really fascinated by NASA and the future and all those. I mean, I don't know if you can't be 6'8" and be a astronaut. You know,
yeah, hit your head a few
it's hard.
times.
It's hard to get on a regular airplane. You know what I'm saying? You try to get on a jumbo 737, you hit your head. Imagine getting on a spaceship. You know what I'm saying? And then, but if I wasn't playing football, if I didn't play football, I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing in my life right now, writing books, making animated cartoon series. I got a new show that comes out at Disney this year.
Cool.
I just did my first mobile game, which is in a beta phase in the App Store, Knuckle Sandwich. And so I will live a life of creativity. I don't really see any other path for me. I feel like there's no really other way for me to go besides to make things and try to make the world a more playful place. So I don't know what else I could possibly do with myself besides what I'm doing right now.
I know you said you don't miss the NFL. Do you still watch it? Just wondering at all?
No, I started working with Brandon Marshall on his I Am Athlete show a little bit. I don't talk about the game or watch the game really, but I kind of I see stats and stuff pop up, but I don't really watch the game. But I'm aware of the game. When I first retired, I didn't watch it at all for like the first 3 years. So I think my relationship with the idea and the identity of the sport has become more of a healing process, I guess, in that acceptance of the game. So the last 2 years, I've probably been tuning in a little bit more, but I don't watch games. I find them to be boring. I think the commentating is boring. It's been the same for the last 30 years. They say the same things. They build the same narratives. I mean, like wrestling, at least wrestling come up with new storylines, but in the NFL, it's like the same guys on television. No offense to Chris Collinsworth, but I've heard his voice for the majority of my life or any of those other guys. So it's just like I just feel like they need a new spirit and new energy to the game and how we watch it. It's a totally different time. We want more entertainment, more, excitement, but it's the same layouts, the same system. So I find the games to be boring to watch.
What about your guy Tommy Brady doing games this year?
I've only saw moments of him doing it. I haven't really followed him doing it. I think he's all right. But I think he's a guy that works very hard and can get better at it. I think but I mean, I like Tom. Tom is one of my favorite teammates I ever had. I mean, we bonded over interior design. So I like Tom a lot, but I haven't really watched him do commentating. But I imagine it's hard for guys with that level of self-knowledge of the game to share his experience on a level that communicates to the masses, right? Like high football talk and then taking that high football talk and commercializing it to deliver it to a mass audience and trying to not get so caught up in the nuances, but make it entertaining could be something that I could see him be in trouble with in some ways,
Yeah, he is
But I don't know. Like, again, it's just a speculation. I only see him do look at him here and there. His suits are always nice, though. I'll tell you that.
Well, with the money he has and also getting paid $375 million to do this stuff for the contract, the suits better be nice, right?
I mean, they always do that, man. All you gotta do is be white and a quarterback, and they'll give you a job on television.
The name of the book, Dear Black Boy, will be available for purchase wherever books are sold on January 14th. He's Martellus Bennett. Martellus, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Thanks, man. Hope you have a great day.
You too. There he is, Martellus Bennett, joining us on the show. The line on the sumo wrestlers was awesome. Can I say fat mother bleepers? And obviously we're on the radio, then that goes there. So there's Martellus Bennett. Here's the book right there joining us on the show. All righty, let's take a time out. I usually have a good inclination on people, especially guests. And we were originally asked, hey, would you want to put Martellus Bennett on? I go, I don't know, man. He's a wild card. Now, it was an entertaining conversation. I will say that. I had to sit there on the edge of my seat, and I had no clue what he was going to say. But when he starts the conversation on a sports show, hey, I don't miss playing the NFL. Fine, get it. I don't really watch the NFL anymore. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not going to ask him about the Cowboys and the Giants and the Bears and the Pats and the Packers and team. Like, well, he's going to give us nothing. So the minute he's talking about going to Japan and Miho, just to get correct there, and then the sumo wrestlers, I go, all right, we agreed to come on the show. We booked it, even though I was skeptical of it at first. So I go, I'll try to find something out of there. But I knew that was going south real quickly. I knew that was going off the rails real quickly. It makes for entertaining radio. There is no doubt about that. When you listen to him and have him talk about his life experiences and he wanted to be an astronaut. But once again, here's the book if you're watching on YouTube. Good intentions obviously behind the book. But I wonder how the rest of those tours are going to go. Because we're doing a live show, right? So if it stinks, and I'm not saying that stunk, then it stinks. If it's great, it's great. A lot of these other shows, he's going to jump on the Zoom. You're going to have these people that don't know how to interview. And they're going to ask him questions that he wants nothing to do with in the answers. And then the next thing you know, they're probably not even going to post most of what they end up having with those conversations. So that was something. That's how I'll describe it. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Martellus Bennett just joined us a few moments ago. I don't think I've ever laughed more during an interview and smiled more during an interview and was like, what the heck is he going to say next when he joined us? I don't know. About 8 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so. It felt like it was an hour, though, if I'm being honest. I'll get to my top 10 NFL storylines from this past season in just a bit. Nik Bonitto from the Broncos is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. The big news since we got on the air, Antonio Pierce out as the head football coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So now 6 jobs are open. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Gerald in Wisconsin wants to jump on in and talk about his Packers. Gerald, what's happening?
All right, first off, I'm listening to a whole bunch of Packers fans calling in saying they are not going to win. Dude, that's fair weather that's fair weather fans. I think if you are against your team, you should 100% not be allowed to watch a game, not be able to celebrate the victory. I don't want to hear you calling in on Monday being like, yeah, my Packers, anything.
So you're thinking, Gerald, hold on. I just want to get this straight. If you're a fan of a team and you think that team isn't going to win the game, you shouldn't be allowed to root for them. Is that what you're saying?
Like, dude, I just don't understand what all the negativity does. If you're sitting there saying, oh, my team can't win, how many Eliminator challenges get knocked out because Baltimore got beat by Jacksonville or some one-win team?
Yeah. Well, have people been saying that there's no chance that the Packers win?
I've been hearing a lot of people calling in, and I think it's just a what have you done for me lately? Not to mention, I think those guys don't know what they're talking about with football because we are one day away from Jalen Hurts not stepping on the field to playing Kenny Pickett. So,
well, here's the thing. I wouldn't say the Packers have no chance. And a lot of people thought the Packers had no chance last year, and they ended up beating the Cowboys. But I do think that the Eagles are going to win the game as long as if Jalen Hurts play. But I wouldn't say it's no chance that the Packers could win the game.
Right. So, I mean, I get reality and that the Eagles have played better. And I don't know, maybe I'm sitting at a 50-50 myself. But for me to call in or for me to sit there and say, yep, my team is terrible because they lost to the Bears, like, football is a crazy sport. Like, just don't be dumb. Don't feed into all the negativity. What does it do? You're still going to sit down and you're going to watch the game.
Yeah.
And if they win, then you sound like a freaking idiot to everybody on the radio because now you went, yep, the Packers had no chance.
But what happens if they
and then
lose?
You're going to jump around and be super happy.
What happens if they lose? Then what do you sound like?
I mean, dude, I'm going to be disappointed. What I'm here for, I'm 38 years old. I can count on two hands the amount of seasons that the Packers have not been in the playoffs. I'm just here to watch exciting football. Like, expectation ruins everything. Like, honestly, if you think about it, the Packers shouldn't be where they got to last year and the year before, coming off of a Hall of Fame quarterback.
But that's what good organizations do. They find a way to quickly pick up with what you have and be a solid team.
Yes, 100%. So maybe the reality is, if they do lose, instead of being, saying, oh, well, fire everybody, the Packers suck, they have no chance of winning, maybe they're actually where they should be. They were probably a number one regression candidate because they got so far further than they should have last year. Maybe along the process, they're actually right about where they should be.
You know what, Gerald, I just want you to respond to one thing. Let's see if you could do this. Ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Go, Pack, go!
There we go, Gerald. All right, I appreciate you calling. There he is, Gerald in Wisconsin. That's a frustrated Packers fan. Imagine, Stu, if you could be in a spot where you get annoyed with actually having expectation, and you're just telling everyone, even appreciate the team when they lose, Stu. As all your team does is just lose. And you know what? I could understand a little bit where Gerald is coming from, because my team has won 6 championships. And the last 4 years, there may only be one time where I was really irate with the team. Maybe 2. The one was, ironically, the loss up against the Raiders, where I don't even know what they were doing on the lateral play. That time I was actually annoyed. And then this year, I just didn't like when Gerard Mayo was basically slamming the team and then just didn't put any accountability on himself. But that must be a nice spot to be in, Stu. I know you know nothing about it, where he could get annoyed that the Packers actually had expectations and be okay that they haven't met those expectations and upset with just the fan bases that want more.
Yeah, I could. I mean, like you said, I can't really speak to much of that, but yeah, I just don't understand the idea that you can't think your team is going to lose. Yeah, that's weird. Like, if you think something, like, why can't you be a fan? And
We're the real fan. It's like that dope in New England, Jelani Tavai. That guy I don't like anymore. Who goes, oh, your fans show up and root for the team. Well, the fans that are showing up and rooting for you when you guys put on that dog crap product on the field are probably the ultimate fans, because they're going in the freezing cold in New England to go watch your pathetic, sorry ass play. So, yeah, fans can be critical. Fans can be negative. Fans cannot expect much. I wouldn't walk into this game saying there's no percentage of chance that the Packers can win. But do I think they're going to win? If Jalen Hurts plays, probably not. But is it inconceivable? No. But this idea that you have to sit there with pom-poms and always support the team, those are the fans that actually annoy me the most. Sorry, Gerald. I like how you ended the phone call. But any fans, like, you always have to be positive. Now, if you're always negative and you're never positive, that's different. Your team better be the biggest cluster you know what in the league. But this idea that I always have to be positive, and I'm not saying Packers fans really have much to bitch about. Please stop. Just stop. You're allowed to be negative as a fan. And we live in this world now where it's always like, gotcha. You know, I'll put out a tweet, these dopes that are like, oh, I'm going to bookmark this, and I'm going to bring it back up if it's wrong. Congratulations. You think I give a rat's ass if you bring it back up? Drag me on social media if you want to. At least I own real estate in your cabeza, and you're coming on back and you're coming to my tweets. Better than doing it somewhere else. Ay. It's amazing how much people care about the perception, right, of others. It really is amazing to me. All righty. Let's try to get the show back on the train track, because we had Martellus, Bennett, followed up by Gerald. And I feel as if I'm losing control of the show. I'm just going to be honest. That rare times where the conductor, Zach Gelb, loses control of the radio program. The last 30 minutes, I have lost all control of the radio program. Right? If you're tuning in and you're saying, this guy's in control, and you've never heard me before, this is not a reflection of my career. But I have driven the train right off the tracks. This show has been off the rails the last 30 minutes. So let's get back to something that is typical radio. My top 10 storylines from this past NFL season. You go from Martellus Bennett sumo wrestling to Gerald in Wisconsin being annoyed about Packers fans being negative, which I didn't even know that's a thing, Packers fans being negative. I thought they're like the nicest people in the world that just have those cheese curds and they yell, "Go Pack, go," and drink their spotted cow. But when I take a look back, here are my top 10 storylines from this past NFL season. Number 10, Bryce Young salvages his career. Number 9, the Steelers and Falcons quarterback decisions. The Falcons end up bringing in Kirk Cousins, then they draft Michael Penix 8th overall. 3 weeks left in the season. They bench Kirk Cousins, who they have a 4-year contract for $180 million, and they hand the baton over to Michael Penix Jr. The Steelers, they were originally going to start Russell Wilson. Then Russ got hurt. You go to Justin Fields. Steelers are playing well. Then we're going to go back to Russ. Russ wins a bunch of games, but then they were miserable down the stretch, and the Steelers are going to kind of repeat what they've done the last few years, be a fine team, but not be a team that probably wins a playoff game. They haven't done so since the 2016 season. In at number 8, the Sam Darnold redemption story. Who would have thought Sam Darnold would have had a good season this year? You know, I know that he's got Addison and he's got Jefferson and you got Hawkinson and you got Aaron Jones and you got Kevin O'Connell. But Sam Darnold was left for dead. And I know he didn't play well on Sunday night. He was jittery. He was all over the place. But Sam Darnold's had a very good season, lining himself up to get a fat contract this offseason. A fat mother bleeper contract this offseason. I had to use it as a drop from Martellus Bennett. In at number 7, the Bears. They just can't get out of their own way. There was expectations. There was palpable buzz with the Chicago Bears from what they were able to do in this offseason. And sitting there when the Hail Mary happened, they were 4-2, I think, at that time. And they didn't win a game since that until this past weekend. They were god-awful. Eberflus, who should have never been brought back, he got fired right after Thanksgiving for his incompetence and not using his timeouts. But the Bears just can't get out of their own way. In at number 6, the strong AFC West trio. The Raiders aren't in there, but the Chiefs are still the standard, even though they were vulnerable. And you had the breakout story of Bo Nix, the return to dominance for one Sean Payton, and you saw Jim Harbaugh come back to the NFL. And man, the Chargers in the playoffs, the Broncos in the playoffs, and also we know the Chiefs are the number 1 seed. In at number 5, Jaden Daniels. He has saved the Commanders. They got their first life raft thrown to that organization last year when we saw Daniel Snyder no longer owning the team. Josh Harris in year 1 as the owner. And then in year 2, yes, Peters did a good job, Adam Peters. You have Dan Quinn, a professional coach, good coach. Even though Ron Rivera is a professional coach, but they need a new coach. Ben Johnson leaves you at the altar, so you don't get him. But it didn't really matter who you hired until you got that quarterback. And Jaden Daniels looks like a franchise-altering player. In at number 4, both the 49ers and Bengals missed the playoffs. You could have made the case before the season. Bengals against 49ers in the Super Bowl as a preseason pick. Both of them end up missing the postseason. 3, the Jets' embarrassment. There was big-time expectations for the Jets. You just need a quarterback. You just need Aaron Rodgers healthy. And we saw Robert Saleh get fired early into the season. Joe Douglas followed him shortly after that. And the Jets now are looking for a new GM and a new head football coach. And we'll see if Aaron Rodgers will be back next year for another NFL season. In at number 2, this is not a debate I care for, but both of these teams have a great chance to do some damage in the postseason. And they'll probably meet up against one another coming up in the divisional round if there's no funny business this upcoming weekend on Wild Card Weekend, no longer Super Wild Card Weekend. It's the MVP debate between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and what both those quarterbacks have done, Lamar for the Ravens and Josh Allen for the Bills. And at number 1, Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry making the running back position fun again with their monster seasons going into this year. You know, you looked at the Eagles, you said talented team even before they got Saquon, but look how messy that locker room was. And then you saw the Ravens lose in the AFC Championship game at home until they get it done in the postseason. Why believe? Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry both had monster seasons, made you believe in the running back position again, and also made you believe in the Eagles and Ravens once again. So those are my top 10 storylines from this past NFL season. Stu, any that you think, just wondering that I missed?
Yeah, I have a couple that I think are kind of in that ballpark. How about Kirk Cousins and the disaster that he was with the Falcons after that big contract and the high expectations of winning that division going into the year?
Yeah, I don't mean to be a bad guy here, and don't take it this way. I threw him in there with the Steelers. I did Steelers and Falcons. So with the QB decision. So yeah, that's definitely a storyline. And got any more there?
Yes, I think the Cowboys. You look at the Cowboys, and I know you weren't as high on them. I wasn't as high on them, but some people did think they were a playoff team. And then you look at, even before Dak got hurt, they were pretty much a complete disaster from the start.
You know what's funny? I didn't put the Cowboys in there, and here's why. I just know the story, right? Like, I look at the Cowboys, and I know you weren't high on them. Like you said, I wasn't high on them. The only expectation I have for them is they're going to miss the playoffs this year. And it's the same joke with Jerry Jones over and over and over again. When you have, right, everyone has that one friend that tells the same joke, or that one family member that tells the same joke. Eventually the joke doesn't get funny anymore. So that's why they just didn't stand out to me in the top 10 memorable moment.
And then the last one I have, it's kind of parallel to the NFL, but I think in Belichick's first year away from the league and the whole talk of him possibly coming back this offseason and then taking the North Carolina job, and maybe there wouldn't have been a job for him. Maybe he kind of saw that foreshadowing.
You know what? It's a great point you bring up. We talked about Belichick. Foregone conclusion he was coming back this hiring cycle. Then he takes the UNC job. I know in June the buyout goes from 10 to 1 million, but you have 6 jobs open up right now. We're all 6 teams. I know the Patriots wouldn't bring him back. That's different. And I don't think Brady would have hired Bill. So 4 teams pretty much open. Are all 4 of those teams really going to pass on Bill Belichick? You know, last year he only talked to the Falcons. And look how that worked out for the Falcons. Right, Raheem Morris, man, he's some brainiac at the head coaching position. Let me tell you that. So that's a good one. And I see Bill doing all this recruiting stuff now and posting and posing for photos with high school players and recruits. It's sad to me. It is. It's sad to me because he should be coaching in the NFL. And I'm disappointed that the Falcons didn't hire him last year. And even though it will be interesting for college to watch Bill at UNC and maybe still coaches one day in the NFL again, but I wanted to see him go through this cycle and see what was going to happen. And I still do believe that he was going to get a job, but clearly he didn't think he was, or, you know, I don't think he was just so attracted to this position at UNC, you know, to be clear. But I think it kind of weighed on him, and he kind of thought to himself, and there's a chance I don't get a job. And he took the first job that was offered to him, and the coaching cycle in college obviously opened first. All right, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll do overreaction, proper reaction next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, there are now 6 coaching vacancies in the NFL, with the Raiders announcing they have fired Antonio Pierce after going 4-13. The move comes a day after Pierce said he expected to be back, but today, a different story once he met with owner Mark Davis. Pierce did have more wins last year as the interim than he did this year. The GMs are not immune. The Titans fired Rand Carthon after 2 years. The team won 9 games in that time and currently have the number 1 pick in this year's draft, which will be now made by somebody else. Head coach Brian Callahan is staying on the job. Rex Ryan interviewed with the Jets for their head coaching vacancy and a second stint in that role. The team also asked the Saints permission to talk with interim coach Darren Rizzi. Former Jets coach Robert Saleh is among those talking with the Jaguars regarding their vacancy. Tyreek Hill indicated he wants out of Miami, but in a meeting with GM Chris Greer, Dolphins executive said Hill did not ask for a trade. The Celtics continue their chase of the Cavaliers in the East. They are in Denver tonight. The defending champs open the day 5.5 games back. Also tonight in college action, top-ranked Tennessee goes for its 15th straight win to open the season. The Vols are on the road at Florida, which is 13-1. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. I'll get to overreaction, proper reaction in just a second. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Francois in Dallas wants to chime in first on Mike McCarthy and Bears potentially being a duo together this offseason. Francois, what's happening?
Not a whole lot. Happy 2025 to you. Thank you so much for taking my call. And I've got two comments I'd like to make if you give me reprieve. And then if you put me on hold so I could hear your response, I'd appreciate it. I just read a piece by Liam McKelney, and the headline is that Jerry Jones is ghosting the Bears over the request to talk to Mike McCarthy. Now, first of all, McCarthy's still on a contract to January the 14th.
Yeah, so 7 more days.
So they don't have any obligation to do anything regarding Mike McCarthy right now. So I think that article is ridiculous, and what that tells me is that possibly Jerry wants Mike McCarthy back. Now, my opinion is...
Well, I haven't read the article, but I don't think it's... They made a request. They're allowed to make a request. If Jerry Jones, he could not respond to the request, but I think he should. Either you want to keep him as your head coach or you don't. And if you don't, then you should let him go interview with the Bears right now.
Yeah, I just my point is this, is that he's got the time to decide whether he wants to keep Mike McCarthy or whether he doesn't want to keep Mike McCarthy. And they just played their last game of the season on Sunday. Yeah. I mean, you can at least give him 72 hours to figure out when he's going to sit down with McCarthy, when they're going to have a discussion, and whether they're going to keep him or not.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is this. If, let's just say, I had a lady friend text me that I was interested in. And she texted me, hey, you want to do dinner in a week from now? If I don't respond to her right away, it means I'm not really interested in going to dinner. So if Jerry Jones doesn't respond to the Bears right away, then you better make sure that you're texting McCarthy on the side and saying, hey, we're going to reject the Bears' request or not respond to. We really want you back as head coach. If you then ghost the Bears and you don't end up getting the deal done with McCarthy, then I think that's bad business by Jerry Jones, if you ask me.
Right. Now, I can argue that when it comes to women and dating, but we don't have time for that. So I'm gonna go to my next comment. But here's what I've been telling guys here for the last 3 years, right? And I'm not a Cowboy Kool-Aid drinking, choke on the Kool-Aid kind of Cowboy fan. I'm extremely objective. My issue with the Cowboys stems, obviously, with Jerry Jones, the GM, in terms of players. You tell me how many gorilla football players that the Cowboys have.
Appreciate the phone call, Francois. I'm going to let you go on that one. All righty. Man, we have to use this dump button like all the time today. Let's just go to overreaction, proper reaction.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
Alrighty, Stu. I told you the train has been falling off the tracks today. What do we got?
All right, so the Titans, they had the worst record in the NFL, and they landed the number 1 overall pick, with everyone expecting them to take either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. However, the decision will be made by a new GM, as the team announced that they were firing GM Rand Carthon after just 2 years at the helm. So onside, offsides, it's a mistake to make such a critical pick with a brand new GM.
Offside, because if you don't believe the old guy is competent enough to do so, why would you let him then make that pick? So if you have to go make such a crucial pick with the brand new GM, so be it, if you don't think the guy before him is any good. So It's a mistake to make such a crucial pick with a brand new GM. I'm going to go offside on that one. Or overreaction on that one.
the off the rails might be continuing. When
I lose control of the show, it's never happened really before. I'm just done. I think I should pack it up and let Stu and Samter host the show for the next hour.
The Chargers, they snagged the 5 seed.
I was wondering. I said something. I go, what the heck did I just say? So I saw Samter's hands was on top of his head as if something awful came out of my mouth. I'm like, I didn't say anything crazy there, but I get the point. Go ahead.
The Chargers, they're the 5 seed in the AFC, and they travel to Houston to take on the AFC South champion Texans. Now reports say that the longtime Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott is signing with the Chargers for the playoff run. Of course, Zeke was a shell of himself this year, rushing for just 226 yards with an average of 3.1 yards per carry. So overreaction or proper reaction, Zeke will make at least one impact play for the Chargers in the playoffs.
Could I see them giving him a carry at the goal line and getting in for a touchdown? Yeah, I can. Do I think he's going to make an explosive play? No. A 1-yard touchdown run? Yes, I think so. So I will go proper reaction there. Onsides. Good? Go ahead.
Kevin O'Connell, he's on the short list for the Coach of the Year after leading the Vikings to a 14-3 record in the 5th seed in the NFC. Now reports say that teams around the league are expected to inquire about trading for O'Connell to fill their coaching vacancies. And O'Connell addressed this yesterday.
What I can tell you is I love this team. I love everything about this organization. And this is where I want to be. This is where I want to keep coaching and leading. So any conversations, in my opinion, at this point that, really aren't about the Rams and the task at hand, my personal responsibility to lead immediate improvement off of yesterday, but also capitalizing on the opportunity to be in the tournament, my sole focus at this point.
So overreaction or proper reaction, trading for O'Connell would be a better option than any of the other coaching options that are on the market right now.
Ooh, yeah, because Ben Johnson's what Kevin O'Connell would want to be. Mike Vrabel's the one. He's been to an AFC championship game. Kevin O'Connell's not been to an NFC championship game. Doesn't even have a playoff victory yet. So that's the one. Trading for O'Connell will be a better option than any other coaching option on the market right now. And also Pete Carroll's on the market if you like him. So I will go overreaction on that one just with those two names. And by the way, you didn't say onside, offside in the first question answer, right? You didn't say that, right?
I did. The first question I read onsides, yes.
So that's what I didn't even hear that part.
Oh, I know.
But I'm looking at the sheet in front of me, which Samter writes, so we're not going to throw anyone under the bus, but it says onside, offside underneath it. So that's why I ended up doing so. And then I probably, even though I didn't remember hearing it, I somewhat heard it. That's what I was laughing about. I was on an 8-second delay there. That's why I was laughing. All right, final one. Let's go quickly.
All right, so one team looking for a new coach is the Saints, and many consider New Orleans the least desirable job right now. Interim head coach Darren Rizzi has done an admirable job filling in for Dennis Allen, going 3-5 in 8 games after the team started at 2-7, and Rizzi is beloved by the players on the team. So onsides, offsides, Rizzi has earned a chance to be the Saints' full-time coach.
And also, Darren Rizzi, the Jets have requested permission to interview him. We'll see if they will get it. I would not be hiring Darren Rizzi to be the head coach, so that would be a overreaction. He has earned the chance to be the Saints' full-time head coach. I interview him, talk to him, fine, but would I end up hiring him? No, I would not. I think there's better candidates out there. All righty, that will do it for a little overreaction, proper reaction right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It really would have been a banner day if I would have just said on CBS Sports Radio there with how this last hour has gone. From Martellus Bennett saying, can I say fat mother bleepas on the radio? And that I don't think Francois meant it anyway, but with how he said something, I just felt uncomfortable. And I'm like, all right, we got to dump that. And then we're doing overreaction, proper reaction if it's onsides, offsides. What are we doing today? The paycheck still clears, though, folks. Nik Bonitto, he's going to be earning himself a lot of money. He's going to join us next after his monster season with the Broncos. Broncos play the Bills this weekend.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We have the NFL postseason getting started on Saturday and coming up on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in chilly Buffalo. You'll have the Buffalo Bills hosting the Denver Broncos, who've been a marvelous story all throughout the season. Nik Bonitto is here with us right now. He's had 13 and a half sacks this past season for the Broncos, and he's kind enough to join us right now with the Broncos back in the playoffs. Nick, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on obviously playing in a postseason game coming up this Sunday, and how you been?
I appreciate you, by the way, and I've been good, man. Just being able to do this, it's been a long time here since we've been able to clinch a playoff berth. So, just being able to be a part of this group has been amazing. So
obviously in this league, you either have the quarterback or you don't. I'd be lying to you right now if I said, before the season, I thought you guys were going to the postseason. I didn't have high expectations. What was able to click with this team, and when did you kind of know that on the other side of the ball, man, this guy, Bo Nix, he's pretty damn special for the Broncos?
Yeah, I feel like as far as clicking, man, we can probably go back to last year. I mean, I feel like we had a lot of guys that came back from last year's team that kind of, witnessed a little bit of success with that 5-game winning streak, and just being able to have that type of winning feeling and, bringing those guys back from last year and just continuing to grow with the new guys, like Bo, like you said. He's been nothing but great since he's been here, been a leader since day one, since he stepped in the building. And, I couldn't be more happy to have him as my QB. So.
But what's impressed you the most, just wondering about Bo Nix, when you look back at the regular season that he's been able to have?
Yeah, I mean, just being able to just, continuously just, play and just being able to move on from mistakes and being able to continue to lead in the way that he does and lead the offense in the way that he does. I mean, for guys that, that are his age and, guys that come in the league so early, with him being a rookie, a lot of guys, they kind of don't react to, those type of moments where, he may throw a pick well and, it's like, now what? To where he's now reacting and just, trying to lead the team and, just trying to uplift the guys. And, I feel like that kind of goes a long way and it spreads in the locker room. So
Nik Bonitto here with us. Like, you didn't come out of nowhere this season. I know last year you had 8 sacks, but to have 13 and a half this year, there's been a lot more focus on you and there's been a lot more praise individually. I know you're a team guy, but how did you make that jump from a good season last year to having a great individual season this past season?
Yeah, just kind of looking at where I was last year, looking back at the film and just seeing where I can get better from that standpoint. And then also looking at, guys around the league and, seeing, who kind of models my game and what type of stuff that, that they do that I can put in my game to make myself a little better. And probably just, knowing the schemes a little bit better as far as like what teams like to do. How tackles like to set and, just quarterback depth and stuff like that. So I feel like all that, film studies kind of helped a lot this year for sure.
Now, this is your 3rd season in the league. I know you're a younger player. Out of curiosity, though, when you were kind of growing up or maybe even the last few years or connections that you just have now in the NFL, who are some of those players that you model your game after or try to take a few things from?
Yeah, obviously, you got to start off with the GOAT, Von Miller. That's one of my guys I've been watching since I was a kid. I watch a lot of Brian Burns as well, Jonathan Grenard. Those are kind of the guys that I kind of look at, on a week in, week out basis and kind of take, from their game a little bit and try to incorporate it into mine.
And that's something. I know you talked about your guy, Von Miller. Clearly, you being in Denver, you're going up against the Bills this weekend as you're going to try to send the Bills home unhappy. But, man, it's still got to be a little surreal going up against Von Miller in a playoff game, knowing that he's one of their best defensive players and you're one of the best defensive players for the Broncos.
No, 100%. And, every time I get a chance to, we played against them the last 2 years, whether my rookie year is preseason and last year in the regular season. And Whenever he's on the field, trust me, my eyes are glued to him, trying to see what he's doing, even when I'm trying to get some rest. So, but going against him is going to be amazing. Hopefully, he's not too amazing against us, but it's going to be great to see him for sure.
But what have you been able to take, just wondering, from Sean Payton? We all know that he gets the credit for being a brilliant, offensive-minded head coach in this league, and you play on the defensive side of the ball, but we know that he's one of the best head coaches in this league, period. So what has really Sean done these last 2 years, not only for the team, but for your career?
Yeah, he's just built a culture here, man. Just from day one, he's had, what he's had, and he's trying to bring it here. And you can tell the guys were buying in, and you can see it in the way we play. We all play with joy. We all play for each other, and it's a credit to him. Just the culture that he's built in the last 2 years, and just the way he's able to motivate guys to get ready to play on a week in, week out basis is pretty impressive. So.
And there was so much made last year with Russ being there and the relationship with Russ and Sean. I know Russ is now with the Steelers. He's getting ready for his own postseason game as well. With Russ no longer being in the locker room, do you think that kind of helped the locker room when you look back at it for this past season?
I wouldn't say that to a certain extent, because Russ was great while he was here. Yes, another leader that we had that really helped us a lot last year, but I feel like just the vibe of it's just a little bit different with how young of a team that we have, and just being able for all of us to relate to each other and hang out more. I feel like that's kind of helped a lot this year for sure.
Nik Bonitto here with us. There's been a lot of conversation about Defensive Player of the Year. TJ Watt's name's been thrown into the conversation. Your name's been thrown into the conversation. And also one of my favorite players in the NFL, Pat Surtain, has been thrown into that conversation as well as your teammate. Just how about what he's been able to bring to this team? It's been so special. And, man, I talked to Champ Bailey before the season started, and he said to me, it's a legendary Bronco. Hey, there's nothing that he can't do that I was able to do. So you got a real special one there, obviously, that you know.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm vouching for him for DPOI, man. I know the type of work that he puts in, and when you can just go out there and have a guy where coach tells you go guard the best receiver and you won't have to hear about him for the rest of the game. People don't understand that type of impact that has on the defense, and I'm happy that we have him because there's not many of them in this league. If not, he probably is the only one. So trust me, he has my vote. So.
When you go up against the Bills this week, and I know you can't tell me the game plan, but how about the challenge that Josh Allen does present for you guys?
Yeah, just knowing that he's a guy that can do so much, whether it's with his arm or with his legs. So for us up front, it's going to be big that we have to contain him and try to keep him in the pocket because, when he gets out of there, there's no telling what he can do, and he can make so many things happen outside of the pocket. So, just that, and can probably just controlling the run game for sure, I would say.
I know you don't want to kind of psych yourself out before the game, but it's not a normal week, right? If you guys don't win, the season is over. How about how it's been so far? I know it's early in the week, only being Tuesday, but managing that this is a playoff week and it's all on the line this weekend.
Yeah, man, and I feel like we've kind of had that kind of the sense of urgency that you're talking about for the last 3 or 4 weeks. With it being one game and we're in, so. Going to Cincinnati and playing on the road and going to the Chargers playing on the road. Those were 2 playoff type environments right there. And I feel like, those 2 type of games are going to be able to prepare us for, what's to come in Buffalo. So I feel like we'll be ready.
And it was obvious early on that you guys are going to win that game up against Kansas City. But once the game does end, you guys officially are going to the postseason. What was the scene like in that locker room, knowing you guys were able to celebrate something and officially punch your ticket to the postseason?
It was amazing because, it was just that feeling for like those last 3 weeks where like we were just waiting on it to happen, just chasing that 10th win. And when they finally did, everybody was happy. But I think everybody was more happy with just being able to do it for guys like Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton, the guys that have been here for so long and kind of haven't been able to, reach that far and to get to the playoffs. But being able to do that for them, it felt great. So everybody was happy.
Not many people had you guys in this spot. Not many people thought this was going to be a successful season, Nik Bonitto. Did you guys kind of thrive off that? Did that galvanize this group with how many people were doubting you guys along the way?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen all the stuff with like us having the worst roster. We're going to finish with like 5 wins, 4 wins. And it's like, you would have seen last year, like we had almost everybody coming back. So I don't know why they would make those type of predictions, but Yeah, we definitely took it personally in the offseason. We heard all the noise and just the way we worked in the offseason and being able to come into the regular season with that chip on our shoulder. I knew we were going to be better than what the experts had us going to be. So,
and you know this, no one's going to give you a chance coming up on Sunday. So I'm sure you're already privy to the analysis that's out there, correct?
yeah, that's just how we like it, though. We're just going to go ahead and play football. So.
Well, before we let you run, when you look back at this regular season so far and what you've been able to accomplish, I know that you said you were confident earlier on that this team was going to be special, but was there one moment that you remember from this past season that you go, okay, this group really does have something special brewing? It's not just thinking it, but we're starting to see it on the field.
Yeah, I would say probably, we went to Tampa week 3, and then we ended up staying in West Virginia between the Buccaneers game and the Jets game. And just seeing how we started off 0-2, and then we responded to win those two type of games back to back, after, all the circumstances with us staying in West Virginia and having to stay together and bond together that whole week. I feel like that kind of is when I knew we had a special group and, we can do a lot of, great things this year. So I'll probably just say that moment.
And I'll be honest, because I was one of those experts, I say that in air quotes, that early start to that Jet game, at one point, Bo Nix had -7 passing yards. I think I have a tweet out there somewhere. It's like Sean should have just stayed at Fox. For you guys to pull out that game in those terrible conditions and all that you guys were battling, like you said, man, that was one impressive performance that you guys had up against a Jet team that at the time a lot of people thought was going to be a pretty good team this year.
Yeah, 100%. And just that game in particular kind of showed the grit of our team and where the conditions weren't that good. And we were going against a really good team at the time. And just being able to find a way on the road to just pull that out, it just showed like the toughness of our team and, how much we love each other. So
how have you been handling the success? Just wondering, because now, right, no one's sleeping on you as a player with what you've been able to do. You've gotten more national praise in the NFL this year than you ever had before in your career so far.
yeah, I just kind of stay level-headed with that stuff. You can never get too high or too low. At the end of the day, my biggest focus is to just go out there and be the best player I can be every week. Just showcase the hard work and that I put in throughout the week and the talent that God blessed me with. So.
For people, and hey, a lot of people have seen you play. We also saw your touchdown. We've seen the 13.5 sacks this year. But for people that haven't seen Nik Bonitto play so far this year, for whatever the reasons are, I don't know why, what would you say is the way to describe your game if someone hasn't seen you strap it up and play on the NFL gridiron?
I would just say disruptive. I mean, in all parts of the game, whether it's in the run game, in the pass game, even when I'm in coverage, I just always try to find ways to make an impact on the football game. And I feel like I do a pretty good job at that. So, I mean, that was one word that can describe me. I'll probably just say that.
Well, hey, it's been a heck of a season so far. Good luck coming up on Sunday. And that should be some good battle up against the Buffalo Bills, man. They got a good offensive line in Buffalo, so it should be a fun one.
100%. We'll be ready for sure. Appreciate you.
You got it. There he is. One of the best stories in the NFL this year. Nik Bonitto, kind enough to join us for a few minutes on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And, I'll give credit to the Broncos, man. That's a team, before the season, if you would have told me they would have been in this spot, I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't think they'd be a playoff team. I thought they were so far away, and it shows you how good of a coach Sean Payton is. And that defense has been really good this year. And offensively, man, what Bo Nix has been able to do. Now, it just shows you. Everyone can have an opinion on the pre-draft process. If you would have told me this time last year, right, and I know we were in the college football playoff mode already. We were gearing up for the national championship game between Michigan and Washington. And Bo Nix had 2 really good years at Oregon. Before that, it was a lot of ups and downs at Auburn. But if you would have told me he would have been the 12th overall pick of the draft this time last year, I would have never believed it. Maybe he could have crept into the back end of the first round, but I probably would have said a second-round pick. And then if you would have told me he'd be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation, even though it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I think there's a good case for Brock Bowers too, but it's going to be Jaden Daniels. If you would have told me that, I would have said, I really wouldn't believe it. And then if you would have followed it up and said, Zach, this is the parlay of things you're just going to be wrong on, the Broncos are going to be in the postseason, I would say, what the heck are you talking about? Would have never thought that in a million years. So I always think that's important. You know, when you have a player on and you've been critical of the team or you doubted the team, just to embrace it and say it. You know, I could have sat there and be like, oh, a lot of people doubted you this year. You got to eventually acknowledge that I was one of those people that did doubt the Denver Broncos. But, man, they have exceeded all expectations that I had for them this past season. All righty, we'll take a break. When we come on back, I want to play you some sound from this Bears press conference from earlier today. We'll get to that on the other side. And then we've compiled a list here of a bunch of teams. I will give you 3 words or less on those teams on how I think about their future and where they're currently at as well right now as we sit here and we evaluate the lay of the land in the NFL. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So there's dumb, dumber, and then dumbest. That's whatever order you want. 855-212-4227. That's the big question today. Who is dumb, who is dumber, and who's the dumbest? And the trio here of Stunads are George McCaskey, Ryan Poles, and Kevin Warren. Because I heard all three of them speak, and I heard all their breakouts, and I heard the Ryan Poles press conference as well. And there were some moments in that press conference and in the media availabilities afterwards. I'm not even a Bears fan, right? I wish no ill will on the Bears, but I could just feel the hairs on my neck just rising. And then I could feel the steam just coming out of my ears and my skin, which is right now really white because of how cold and nasty it is in New York City, just turning red. Because here's my thing. People always say, Zach, how do you do a radio show and get so mad at teams that you don't root for? I think I lead the nation in getting falsely accused of people thinking I'm a fan of so-and-so team and I'm not. And my number one rule that sets me off, and right, as Emmett Smith once said in this studio, makes me hot when he joined us. The number one thing that just gets me so annoyed and riled up is just incompetence. And when you look at the Chicago Bears, they are an incompetent, pathetic, and embarrassing organization. And that's me being nice. Dumb, dumber, dumbest. In some order. Or maybe dumbass. But I want to be nice. It's the new year, right? I want to be nice. I want to be kind to all. I don't want to call people names, right? I'm a talk show host. I'm a professional talk show host. I would never do something that's so petulant, like call someone a dumbass. I wouldn't do that. But I heard a bunch of malarkey from Ryan Poles today, Kevin Warren, and George McCaskey. So, Stu, I'm going to give you the task here. You're going to figure out who is dumb, dumber, and dumbest. Let's start with Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles, what went wrong with the plan for the Bears offense this year?
His entire rookie season was subjected to disruption and stress.
Can you explain the disruption and stress part?
Offensive coordinator got fired. His head coach got fired. Mm-hmm. A lot of turmoil throughout the course of his rookie season. What went wrong with your plan?
Yeah, obviously, there's some things when there's a staff in place. When we went through the interview cycle with Shane, I think there's some compatibility things. I think there's some challenges with pairing a rookie quarterback that has a lot of growth. He had 37 starts, in college. You'd like to, have in that 35 to 40 range, and there's a lot of growth there. And there's some compatibility to make sure that it's being taught the right way. And I think there were some hiccups there. And again, that's part of the ownership.
I'm lost on that one, Stu. I really am. The fact that he's going to act as if he just didn't understand the question. Do me a favor. Play me the first 10 seconds of that one more time.
His entire rookie season was subjected to disruption and stress.
Can you explain the disruption and stress part?
Stop. Just stop. Explain the disruption and stress. You know what? Chicago Bears football, where we provide disruption and stress. Oh, what do you mean? It's almost as if the reporter was talking Japanese, for crying out loud. You know what that means. It reminds me of like Billy Madison, where the line is, Mr. Madison, what you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. That is what I wanted to say to Ryan Poles when answering that question. So that's the leader in the clubhouse right now. Dumb, dumber, dumbest. Only one clip in from Ryan Poles. We haven't even got to Kevin Warren and George Pikaski.
It's going to be hard to beat.
That's going to be really tough to beat. Ryan Poles, could they trade for a coach?
Are all options on the table? Would you consider giving up draft capital to trade for a coach of who's currently employed by another team?
Yeah, we'll look at all avenues to get the best coach here.
Okay, no problem with that, right? You keep all options on the table. Who are they trading for? Like Mike Tomlin, I saw, I think it was Colin Coward and John Middlecoff, or whoever he does the show with, throughout Mike Tomlin. I don't think the Steelers are trading Mike Tomlin. There's your hot take. Kevin Stefanski, if he wants out of Cleveland, it wouldn't be a terrible option. You know, he's two-time Coach of the Year. Now, Matt Nagy also won a Coach of the Year award, so who knows how impressive it is to be a Coach of the Year anymore in the NFL. So who else would you like? Kevin O'Connell.
The Vikings are going to trade O'Connell in division.
They're going to trade O'Connell. You know what? Ryan Poles may be dumb enough to think that they would trade him Kevin O'Connell. Finally, one more from Ryan Poles. At least give me some optimism. What are you looking for in a new head football coach?
What we're looking for clear vision, a developmental mindset, really good game management, and obviously a plan to develop a quarterback is going to be a key part of that as well. We're going to cast a wide net. It's going to be a diverse group. There's going to be different backgrounds from offense, defense, special teams, college, pro. We are turning every stone to make sure that we're doing this the right way. There's going to be some names that you don't expect that are going to surprise you because we're digging deeper than we ever have before. In terms of timing, we're going to move with urgency, but we are not going to rush the process, again, because we want it to be a sound process.
That was a professional answer. That was. Now, I like the shot that he took at Eberflus. I don't know if that was intentional, but I will interpret it as intentional when he's talking about game management with how bad Eberflus was and the reason why they finally said, okay, we can't take this anymore. So those are some cuts from Ryan Poles. I'll play you one from the president of the Bears in Kevin Warren. Hey, Kevin Warren, are you committed to Ryan Poles long-term? Go ahead.
When we say long-term, I mean, a year is a lifetime, and I know that's important. And I know 2025 is important not only from a football standpoint, from a stadium standpoint, from an operation standpoint. And so, again, I trust Ryan. I trust the process that he has put together. I'm confident it will yield positive results. We will hire a world-class coach, whether it's Thomas Brown or someone who currently does not work in our organization. We will get this right, and I'm looking forward to it. I am so excited about being able to start these interviews. I haven't been able to sleep the last couple of nights.
I would love to be able to have access to any press conference, right? Where I mean that it's feasible for me to get to any press conference. Because if I wanted to go to this press conference, I could have got to this press conference. But I don't think the company is going to say, hey, Zach, we're going to pay for you to get a hotel. We're going to pay for you to take a plane to Chicago and comp you for all your meals and stuff for me to just go to a press conference. There's a lot of things the company pays for us to go to and things like that, and we're always appreciative. So that's not me taking a shot at the company, let me be clear. But I would have loved to have been at a press conference like that because I would have then asked Kevin Warren, hey, Kevin, you're confident you guys are going to get it right and get a world-class head coach. Why should any fan that has rooted for this team, and I'm sure it's been asked because Chicago media is good, Why should any fan that's been tortured by this team believe that you're going to get it right? Especially after the crap that they just sat through this past year. And I would have loved to have seen him mumble and stutter through that response, if I'm being honest. And that's my problem. I know you got to sell the team. And I know you got to have confidence. But Kevin Warren right there is basically saying, I'm smarter than you. In terms of, and you're being cheeky if we're being honest. What the question was there. Just like how Ryan Poles knew the question was when he asked him to define two parts of the Bears team that he thought was confusing, chaotic, whatever the lines were. But when Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren are speaking, for Kevin Warren to say, a year is a long time. Yeah, maybe if you're a Bears fan, the year's a long time. But a year is not a long time. That's not a long-term future for one Ryan Poles in Chicago. So I didn't love that part of the answer, number one. And number two, I get it. You're not going to get up there and say, hey, we're going to hire some crappy coach, right? But world-class, we know we're going to get, why? This organization, they could mess up a one-car funeral procession right now, for crying out loud. All right. So we're judging this on a scale between these three guys, Poles, Warren, and McCaskey. Dumb, dumbest, and dumber. Dumb, dumber, and dumbest. Let's listen up to George McCaskey on how he's responding to Bears fans chanting for him to sell the team.
Yeah, it's understandable. As Kevin mentioned, our fans are passionate. They're incredibly frustrated. They wanted to make their voices heard. I was more bothered by the week before when Lions fans tried to take over Soldier Field, force the home team to go to a silent snap count. Fortunately, that didn't happen. It's understandable that Bears fans would sell their tickets because of the way the season has gone. And the challenge for us is to put a team on the field that Bears fans are so excited about, they're not interested in selling their tickets.
That may be the most offensive one of them all. Stu, I don't know if you interpret it this way, but that's how I interpret it. He took a shot at the fans and then goes, but I understand why fans would do. We had to go to a silent snap count at home because fans, I'm more disappointed instead of sell the team chance that they sold their tickets to the enemy. And now I understand why you would do so, but basically saying that he was annoyed with them prior to that and then trying to say he wasn't. That's just a guy who is so, and I mean so incredibly tone deaf, George McCaskey. Your team sucks. Your team is a disgrace. Your team had a pathetic, and I mean a pathetic, abysmal, embarrassing season. So don't take a shot at the fans for selling their tickets and then pretend like you actually accept them selling their tickets and you weren't annoyed about it, 3 seconds ago. Shut your dumb mouth. You need to shut up there. That is crazy to me. You are an owner of a football team that is a big pile of crap right now. A big pile of doo-doo. So don't tell me that you're going to sit there and tell the fans, we had to go to a silent snap count because there was too many Lions fans because the Bears fans sold their ticket. But hey, I get it. I get it. I understand. And it's our job to put a good product on the field. An unnecessary shot at a fan base because you're so annoyed that they're chanting sell the team and you try to pretend like you're annoyed. All you should have said there was, it's not a good feeling to hear people say sell the team, but I haven't done my job and I'm going to get this right. Period. Stop. And you don't look like a bozo right there. Because you know what? Dumb, dumber, dumbest. That was the scale that we went into before this. And this is a game that we're playing with Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and then also George McCaskey. Dumb is Kevin Warren. Dumbest. Dumb, dumber, and dumbest. I can't even get it right. Maybe I'm dumb. So dumb, I'm going to say, is Kevin Warren. Dumber is Ryan Poles. The dumbest is George McCaskey. And I know he is filthy rich. But that was really, really dumb. What's your scale on this, though?
It is exactly the same as yours. I did not think Poles could be topped after his comments, but I think you can't take a shot at the fans. And it wasn't even like he was asked about that specific instance that happened a couple weeks before. He just went out of his way to take a shot at the fans, which I think is pretty stupid on his part.
Yeah, I was so fed up when I just heard that, and I was screaming, and I lost my mind. I don't know if you could even see it in the video, but there was a moment where I was screaming, and there was a lot of spit that flew right out of my mouth. Now, let me be real. With some of the people that I see come into this studio and the lack of hygiene, if I'm being fair, throughout the years since I've been at the Infinity Sports Network, and some of the cups that are left behind, and some of the other things and the hairs that are all over the place, and the windscreens, if I'm just being honest, I think that may be one of the more sanitary things to happen in the studio. Because I've seen a lot of nasty things working at this network. All righty, we'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back. I got 3 words or less and a few teams around the league. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Raiders got on the coaching carousel today, firing Antonio Pierce after a 4-13 season, his first as the full-time coach. For some reason, it took them several days to decide his fate after he met the media yesterday and said he was expecting to return. Tom Brady will be part of the search for a new head coach. Speaking of Brady, his former teammate Mike Vrabel will talk to his former team, the Patriots, tomorrow. He has already interviewed with the Jets. Rex Ryan became the 3rd person to interview for the Jets head coaching vacancy, and former Jets head coach Robert Saleh is meeting with the Jaguars. The Titans have the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft, and it'll be somebody other than Rand Carthon making a selection after the Titans fired their general manager after just 2 seasons on the job. They did win 9 games. First-year coach Brian Callahan is staying. Lions corner Terrion Arnold is day-to-day with a bruised foot. The Lions have a first-round bye after clinching the top seed. Dolphins GM Chris Greer met with Tyreek Hill and said the disgruntled wide receiver did not ask for a trade. College basketball tonight, unbeaten and top-ranked Tennessee looks to make it 15 straight on the road at Florida, which is 13-1. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Stu's going to fire me up some NFL music right now. I probably could have helped you transition that a little bit better. That's on me. That's on me. But we have some NFL music. Stu's going to give me the team. All right, we're going to have the big voiceover guy give me the team, Paul Turner. And I'm going to give you 3 words or less on that team, and then we'll get on out of here on this Tuesday edition of the show. Team number 1.
The New York Giants.
Hopefully I'm not dumber, or dumbest here. And I have to make sure that I give you exactly 3 words or less. That'd be funny after just saying how dumber, and dumbest are in the Bears organization. If I then get on the radio and then give you 4 words or something like that. So for the Giants, here are the 3 words. Need a quarterback. That's simple. The New York Football Giants need a quarterback. They haven't had a quarterback in a long time. You're taking a look at this organization right now. There is no reason to believe in them until they get a quarterback. So they need a quarterback. Those are the 3 words. What are you smiling about there?
No, I'm waiting for you to have a not 3-word answer.
I'm sitting there. I'm like, well, it could be. It's 3 words or less. I give you 2 words or 1 word.
It's just funny.
But I'm sitting there. I'm like, does Stu think quarterback is 2 words? Because you were chuckling there a lot. All right, next, Steve.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Never replaced Carr. That's what it comes down to. I don't fault the Raiders for moving on from Derek Carr. I thought it was a good move at the time. But their plan afterwards has been a complete and utter bleep show. They needed to get a better option than what they got the year where they thought it was smart to move on from Carr and bring in Jimmy G. It was the right first move, terrible second move, and this past year they just made Stu suffer through Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Yikes. They need a quarterback. They've never replaced Carr. Raiders job open today. Antonio Pierce is out. We'll see who ends up getting in there and if they could find a way with Tom Telesco being brought back, if they can move up from 6 to maybe 2, 6 to 1 or whatever to go get that quarterback, or do they fall in love with the quarterback in this process that is not named Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward that could be available at 6. All righty.
The Chicago Bears.
Vrabel or Ben? I really do think for the Chicago Bears to give their fans optimism in this offseason and heading into the regular season in 2025, they need to either get Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson. Mike Vrabel, I believe, 95% chance he's going to interview with the Patriots on Thursday. That's 100% chance. But I believe there's a 95% chance Mike Vrabel's the next head football coach of the Patriots. If he's not the next head football coach of the Patriots, Brady was able to pull him away at the last moment and have him join Tommy Brady with the Raiders. But the Bears need to get either Vrabel or Ben. So if it's not Vrabel, they have to go get Ben Johnson. And there's some optimism with the Bears fan base today because Trent Baalke was retained with the Jaguars, that now they think they're going to be able to fully get Ben Johnson. We'll see if that's going to be the case. Next team.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Baalke isn't safe. Those are the 3 words. I know that he's been retained, but Shad Khan was asked with Trent Baalke sitting right next to him, hey, if the new coach doesn't want Trent to be there, like, what's going to happen? And basically, Shad Khan just said, it can't just be an ego thing to get more power. He needs to give valid reasons. If he gives valid reasons, then he would consider it. So Baalke isn't safe, to me, is a big one, because right away, the big take in the last 24 hours is now the Jaguars, who everyone thought, or not everyone, a lot of people thought Ben Johnson was going there. Now, all of a sudden, with Baalke being there, they think that's completely going to derail that. Well, Ben Johnson could come on in, maybe keep Trent Baalke for a year, or get rid of him right away. The owner basically just said it.
The Indianapolis Colts.
This one I take joy in. And those aren't the words, to be clear, because that would be more than 3 words. A mediocre team. A mediocre team. Those are the 3 words. Because they're fine where they're at right now. You know, just missed out of the playoffs, right? Just missed out of the playoffs the last 2 years. It's fine. Run everybody back. Run the GM back. I know Shane Steichen's only been there for 2 years. But how Chris Ballard's been able to be 62, 69, and 1 as a general manager, never win the AFC South and retain his job, that to me is something that, hey, we could play that game for a lot of teams in the NFL that we play with the Bears, dumb, dumber, and dumbest. We could play that for the Indianapolis Colts as well.
The Dallas Cowboys.
All about drama. That's what the Cowboys are all about, and that's all they care about. They don't care about wins and losses. Even with this McCarthy stuff, they haven't even responded to the Bears yet, and McCarthy's contract expires on January 14th. This team, they either should know by now if they're going to bring back McCarthy or not. If I'm Mike, I would try to go elsewhere this offseason. I would just try to say, hey, my contract's done. I'm not interested in coming on back. But Jerry Jones has to know what he does, or what he wants to do right now. And the fact that he hasn't said that publicly, that is a problem, because it goes all into the Jerry Jones game of it only being about drama.
The New England Patriots.
This one could sound morbid, by the way. I'm just going to preface it by that. But he is 83 years old. Kraft's final chapter. Robert Kraft saved the Patriots. The Patriots were one of the more embarrassing teams in the league. He got Bill Belichick. He got Tom Brady. They won 6 Super Bowls. then his replacement plan for Belichick was Gerard Mayo. It was a mitigated disaster this year. Now you're going to hand the baton over to all likelihood Mike Vrabel. This is the last major decision I think Robert Kraft is going to make. He'll make other major decisions. But in terms of, will this team be able to get back on track? Because if you get the coach wrong this time, or if the coach doesn't work right this time, you're 83. I know you can fire a new coach in a year, 2 years, 3 years. But why should then I believe that you're going to get it right? The benefit of the doubt would then have sailed at that point, and that ship would sail. So this, to me, this decision on the Patriots' next head coach is Kraft's final chapter. It's been a great book. We'll see if the final chapter, though, can be good.
The Miami Dolphins.
Waste of talent. That team, I said, are the 49, like they're trying to be the 49ers light. They have a lot of talent, and the Miami Dolphins have done nothing with that talent. I haven't won a playoff game with this group the last few years, so they are a waste of talent.
The Arizona Cardinals.
No franchise quarterback. That was a big question heading into this season. Not could Kyler Murray be great again? Could he just be good? And I didn't see enough to indicate to me that he's going to be the franchise quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. I know he's paid like a franchise quarterback, and he has the contract, but I don't believe they have their franchise quarterback on the roster right now.
The Atlanta Falcons.
This one I enjoy. And it's a shame because I like Bijan Robinson, and I love when Arthur Blank joins us at the Super Bowl. But with that being said, afraid to win. You hired Raheem Morris because you trusted people in your organization that were comfortable with Raheem Morris, that knew their jobs would have been on the line if Bill Belichick was brought in. Bill Belichick would have got the Falcons to the playoffs this year. With that talent that they have, he would have absolutely got them to the playoffs. So Mac Jones was the quarterback of the Patriots. He got them to the playoffs one year. And the Falcons have a lot more talent than any of those teams that the Patriots had post Tom Brady. So this idea that you didn't want to hire Bill because other guys in your organization got into your ear and were like, oh no, we should go with Raheem Morris. Bill, rough around the edges. It was because you were afraid to win. And final team.
The New Orleans Saints.
I'm just going to give you 2 words here. Remember that band One Direction? Well, the Saints are no direction. This team, they're the most unattractive job on the market. The only thing that maybe could rival them are the Raiders. At least you're in Las Vegas. And the Saints, at least you're in New Orleans. But you look at the Saints right now, why would you go there? The only thing I could concoct on why you would want to go to the Saints is the division isn't murderer's row, right? Like the Raiders division is as tough could be right now with the 3 teams that are in front of you, with what the Broncos been able to do this year, what the Chargers been able to do this year, and what the Chiefs have been able to do now for a long time. But that Saints roster is an older roster. They have never been able to come close to replacing Drew Brees. You got Derek Carr there, who Derek Carr is not a great quarterback in this league, and you still got to pay him. They got no direction right now. They're just stuck. They're stuck. They're all the way at the bottom. And eventually, hey, you get the quarterback in the draft. Things can change quickly. We've seen it with Washington. We've seen it with the Texans. But right now, I don't know what their direction is. And the fact that Mickey Loomis is able to survive all this, and you keep on firing head coaches, I don't get it. You get rid of Dennis Allen. Why are you keeping Mickey Loomis? Mickey Loomis was the dope last year that got up in... I'm calling a lot of people dope today. I apologize. But there's a lot of dopes in the world. He was the dope last year that got up and started comparing Dennis Allen to Bill Belichick, for crying out loud. So, come on. That team has no direction. All right, that will do it for a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Samter. Big thanks to Martellus Bennett for joining us earlier today. That was a fun conversation. And Nik Bonitto as well. We'll be back tomorrow as we get a day closer to the college football playoff resuming. As on Thursday, you got Penn State, Notre Dame. And then on Friday, we will see Texas up against the Ohio State University. So we'll talk tomorrow, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Have a marvelous, and I mean a marvelous, Tuesday evening, and we'll talk Bignon, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.